Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to dive into a pretty revolutionary idea in literary criticism, one that basically asks us to forget what we think a story means and instead to really focus on what the text itself is actually doing. So let's kick things off with a huge question, one that readers have been wrestling with for, well, centuries. When you read a poem or a novel, is there really one single correct meaning? And if there is, how on earth are you supposed to find it? You know, for the longest time, literary criticism was kind of like a rule book. A piece of writing was judged against this fixed set of standards. Did it have the right structure? Did it teach a good moral lesson? Meaning wasn't something you discovered, it was something you measured. But then, around the late 19th and early 20th centuries, everything started to shift. People began to think, hang on, one set of rules can't possibly work for all literature. And just like that, the game changed. It went from following one single playbook to using lots of different lenses or theories to see what a text could really show us. And this slide just perfectly sums up that massive shift. We moved from this rigid, rule-based system always looking for a single moral truth, over to a more analytical, theory-based world that loves exploring how a text can mean many different things at once. It's a move from judgment to pure interpretation. Okay, so how did this new game even work? Well, one of the most influential new theories was called new criticism, and its core idea. Whoa, it was a total game changer, and it created a powerful new rule for reading. Forget everything outside the text. The heart of it is this. A poem or a story is a complete, self-contained object. It's its own little universe. Everything you could possibly need to understand it is already packed right inside its own language, its form, its structure. It doesn't need any outside help. Imagine you're handed this beautiful, intricate puzzle box. Your first instinct wouldn't be to call up the person who made it and ask for the solution, right? No! You'd study the box itself, the joints, the patterns, the little mechanisms. That's exactly how new critics see a piece of literature. The author's life, what was happening in history at the time, all of that is outside the box. What this is really saying is that meaning isn't some secret message the author hid for us. Nope. It's built from the inside out. It comes from the complex dance between the words on the page, the imagery, the rhythm, the symbols, all of it working together. Now, to keep this analysis laser-focused on the text, the new critics came up with two major mistakes, or fallacies, that they said readers have to avoid. Think of these as the two things that are totally out of bounds in this new game. First up, we have the intentional fallacy. This is the big one. It's the error of thinking that what the author intended to say is the key to unlocking the text's meaning. New critics would say, look, we can never really know what an author was thinking, and even if we could, it doesn't matter. See, the way they saw it, once a work is published, it's set free into the world. It doesn't really belong to the author anymore. It belongs to the language. So the meaning has to be found in the words themselves, not in some diary entry or an interview the author gave 20 years later. The text is the only real evidence you've got. And the second major no-no is what they called the affective fallacy. This is all about the mistake of judging a work based on the feelings it stirs up in you, the reader. Just because a poem makes you feel nostalgic or happy doesn't automatically mean that's its objective meaning. I mean, think about it. Your emotional reaction is deeply personal. It's subjective. What makes you sad might make me laugh. And since those feelings are all over the map from person to person, you can't really use them as objective evidence for an interpretation. The analysis has to be grounded in the text, not in our own shifting emotions. Okay, so if the author's life is off limits and our own feelings are out of bounds, what tools are we allowed to use? What's left? Well, the new critics had a very specific and very powerful toolkit. Their number one method is something called close reading. This is where you become a detective of language. You're not just summarizing the plot. You are analyzing how specific word choices, patterns of images, and even the very structure of the sentences all work together to create meaning. And here's the kicker. Every single claim you make has to be backed up with cold, hard evidence from the text. And this all leads to a really cool core idea called organic unity. The thinking here is that a truly great work of literature is like a living thing, where every single part, every word, every comma is absolutely essential to the whole. The form isn't just a pretty box for the content. The form is part of the content. You can't separate what's being said from how it's being said. Now, here's what I think is really interesting. New critics absolutely loved complexity.
Things like paradox, irony, or ambiguity, these weren't seen as flaws or mistakes in the writing, just the opposite. They saw them as signs of a rich, powerful text. These elements create tension and depth, and they force us, the readers, to see how seemingly opposite ideas can actually coexist to create a much deeper, more profound truth.
Now, literary criticism has definitely evolved since the heyday of new criticism. And to be fair, many have argued that completely ignoring social and historical context can really limit our understanding. But you just can't deny the lasting impact these ideas have had. Their core tools fundamentally changed how literature is taught and analyzed, even today.
So ultimately, we can see this whole journey from a really rigid, rule-based system that was always searching for one single moral meaning to this whole new world of diverse theories that sees meaning as plural, as something that's constructed, and as something deeply, deeply tied to language itself.
The big legacy of new criticism, the thing that really stuck, is that it gave us the tools for close reading. It taught all of us to slow down, to pay ridiculously close attention to the words on the page, and to become detectives who find all the evidence we need right there, within the four corners of the text. And that leaves us with a really fun challenge. Seriously, try this. The next time you read a book, a poem, heck, even listen to song lyrics, try to put aside what you know about the artist and try to ignore how it makes you feel personally. Just focus on the words, the patterns, the structure. What new discoveries might you make when you let the text itself do all the talking?